So, welcome to the Midcoast Community Council meeting of March 26, 2014. Will the council members introduce themselves?
Dave Olson,
Chris Johnson.
Dan Haggerty.
Lisa Ketchum. Well, we have a quorum, anyway.
Just barely.
Okay, the first item on our agenda is the Board of Supervisors report, and Nicholas Calderon, Supervisor Horsley's aide, has been ill, and he's better, but he's not well enough to come to an evening meeting. So but Chris has a report on Silver Beach. Chris Johnson?
Yes, I attended a conference call that included Nicholas Calderon and Steve Monowitz from San Mateo County, Tammy Grove from California Coastal Commission, Nancy Cave and Renee Ananda, who I believe are with, actually I didn't get their affiliation, Joe Lococo from the Public Works Department of San Mateo County, and 3 people from Caltrans. The reason I listed their affiliations is the main takeaway from that meeting is that it appears now that the group is starting to work well together. The phone call and the discussion was very amenable. Everybody was seeming to be in the spirit of cooperation. There's several things that needed to be done, and people willingly agreed to do their specific tasks without any kind of finger pointing or jurisdictional shuffling around. Nicholas has asked me to hold off on really talking about specifics of the meeting because they've got a scope of work and a project description that were in draft form that we talked about. And he said those final documents are going to come out in the next week or so, and he would rather that we just wait and look at the final formal documents instead of discussing the draft documents. A couple of, I think, light sketches I can say, in addition to the spirit of cooperation, which I talked to Nicholas and he agreed independently. We both kind of had that same feeling. They are doing some research on the permitting, past permitting of what's going to happen out here. Because of the jurisdictional overlays, it's not exactly clear what has happened in the past. So they're doing a little bit of permit research, and then hopefully at the very next MCC meeting we'll have the formal documents to refer to, and Nicholas will be able to give the, kind of the nuts and bolts. I know that seems a little thin, but takeaway, positive. Okay, I think I'd really feel that from that meeting, every entity involved, I think, is now on board and gets it that, somebody had a posting in the Half Moon Bay Review, and I was just out there a couple days ago. In the last week, we've lost another 10 feet off of the shoreline there, where Murata Road used to go. I mean, there was a little trail, I rode my bike by there. I came down there a couple days ago, gone, and now people have beaten out another path through the willows or whatever those bushes are. So that tells you it's 5, 8, 10 feet in a couple weeks on that section. And as everybody knows, the pinch point right by Highway 1, as I said to Nicholas, it's a little vulgar, but you can stand on Highway 1 and spit into the water from Highway 1. So I think people are getting past the jurisdictional issues, and I would expect to see some progress, some substantial material progress in the next couple months.
Thanks, Chris. CHP Captain Mike Maskarick, here to speak to us.
Good evening, members of the council, members of the Midcoast community. My name is Mike Maskarick. I'm the commander for the California Highway Patrol out of Redwood City. We continue our efforts at trying to do what we can to enhance safety on Sunshine Valley Road. This has been an ongoing concern of not only members of the community, but also the California Highway Patrol, as well as San Mateo Public Works. So we're working collaboratively to try and see what we can do to try to curtail the speed problem on that road. Fortunately, we have not had significant a history of accidents in that area, but we certainly want to be proactive before we get to that point. So we're continuing with high visibility enforcement. The county has been very amenable to putting some engineering changes in place, and we're working to see what we can do to, there's an ongoing traffic survey that's taking place and seeing what we can do to lower the speeds of those vehicles. So a traffic survey, once it's concluded, will certainly support a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit as the residents are seeking. At this point, we can't say that. The traffic surveys indicate the speed should be much higher, or not much higher, but higher than the 25 posted, although it's less than what we were looking at in the spring. That was around 40 or 45 miles an hour is what the survey indicated. And clearly, nobody wanted to see that particular speed, but it really precluded our ability to enforce with radar or LiDAR, which is a laser, the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit in that area. So there's a number of challenges that we had to face. Most of the people who we are stopping and citing seemingly live in the area, should be familiar with the dangers of that particular roadway. And while our officers are not always giving tickets, they do have the obvious discretion to give verbal warnings. It's an effort that we have, or it's a method that we have to try to curtail speeding on that particular stretch of road. So it's an ongoing concern of ours, as I said, and it's certainly an effort that's in the works to try to see what we can do to make that road as safe as it can be for everybody who lives and travels on that particular stretch of highway. We continue to work with our stakeholders as well to enhance safety in the community in general, as well as out on Highway 1, and that would include the Sheriff's Department, Public Works, Caltrans, as well as members of the community and boards of supervisors. So we're very involved in the community efforts here, and if there are any safety concerns related to traffic, anyone could reach out to me at any time at the office. I pass out my cards quite frequently. Just email me 24/7, and I'll make sure that myself or one of my staff members gets back to you very quickly, and we can address the concerns that you have. In the short term, we're working to get ready for the Dream Machines event that will take place here in April, as well as the Silicon Valley Triathlon that's going to be held out in Half Moon Bay. And on Friday, we have a Farm Day event that's going to be held down in the city of Half Moon Bay. So it's a great community. I'm very proud to be able to be part of it and to assist everyone who lives and works here, and to do what we can to make this as great a place to live and work and travel through as possible. That concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
Question?
Yes, ma'am.
On Sharp Park Road in Pacifica, they have a little radar thing that's posted because it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit there. And I know when I'm cruising up there and all of a sudden I'm seeing this thing saying I'm doing, like 40 miles an hour, I immediately slow down because I figure, oh, maybe they're going to take my picture, I got to slow down.
Sure.
And then I'm really a good going down the hill. So is there something like that under consideration?
The county has actually installed a similar device on Sunshine Valley Road. So
there is one that
they do. And they've also striped that road as a way to give it the sense that it's narrower, not to make it more unsafe, but to hopefully keep people driving within the roadway delineations, and that has seemingly helped as well. Some of the community members want to see speed bumps or speed tables in the area. It's not an application, according to the county, that would be applicable for that type of roadway. It could actually make things more hazardous. So the county is actively looking at that and working with the people within the community that are concerned. We're trying to find an equitable solution that we can employ to try to get that speed limit down to where it needs to be, try to keep people safe, and certainly our goal is to prevent any accidents, particularly any serious accidents, from taking place on that stretch of roadway. So the county has been very, very supportive. Even though money's tight, they are really expending a tremendous amount of resources and effort to try to do what they can from an engineering perspective to make that road safe. Yes, sir.
I know it's a little controversial, the parking on the side of Highway 1. I know, some people have different views, but I just wanted to hear from the California Highway Patrol point of view, it's legal to park anywhere on Highway 1 unless there's a sign that says you cannot park.
That is correct.
That's true?
That is correct.
Okay, and
Now, there's certain exceptions, obviously fire hydrants or, areas that, if the width of the roadway, and I don't, off the top of my head, know of any on Highway 1 that would qualify for this, that would prevent a hazard, but in those cases, certainly there should be some signage that would dictate that parking would not be allowed.
And then, is there, if a person parked a car touching or just a little, right on the fog line, now, clearly that's a separate issue, blocking the, making it more difficult for a cyclist to kind of, is that a citation or?
If in the opinion of the issuing officer, and it would depend, again, on the location, the visibility, whether it's a curve, straight stretch of roadway, there'd be a number of variables that would be taken into account. But generally, if the vehicle is beyond the edge line into the roadway, if it's an inch into the roadway, it's probably not going to be considered significant enough that the vehicle could be cited. It could even be towed if it's enough of an obstruction in the roadway. But it could be a problem, and it would depend how far, how much. Again, some of the variables as far as the roadway, the visibility, and all those factors would have to be taken into account.
So just to be clear, there's no law that says that there needs to be a little bit of room onto the safe side of the white line for a cyclist. That the car can actually be all the way up to the white line or over.
If it's if it's just a shoulder, if it's a bicycle lane, certainly a car cannot park into the
Okay.
bicycle lane.
All
So
right.
there's a couple of different variables that we're looking at here. But if it's just your standard roadway with a white edge line delineating a shoulder area that's paved and then dirt, if a vehicle is parked within that shoulder area, that would be fine. If it's beyond that delineation into the roadway, again, I don't see an officer citing or towing a vehicle if it's an inch or two. But if it's several feet, clearly that's a significant problem, something that we're going to look at. And if it's egregious enough and it's a significant safety hazard, we're going to want to remove that vehicle as opposed to allowing it to remain and having an accident take place.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item is agenda item 2, public comment. Anybody can speak on an item that's not on the agenda, and the council can't take any action. Is anyone who want to speak under public comment? Chris?
I do. So I want to talk about the Devil's Slide Park, which I believe is formally opening tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I believe that certain members, the Mid-Coast Community Council has been invited to attend the ceremony at 11, and the reason I'm mentioning that is I'm going to ride my bike to this ceremony at 11. And the reason that's significant is I ride my bike more than 4,000 miles a year on all kinds of terrains and all kinds of weather. I have never ridden the stretch from Gray Whale Cove up to the south entrance of the tunnel because it is way too dangerous. I've rarely ridden my bike from the north end of the tunnel down and up from Pacifica. Unfortunately, there is no pedestrian or bike access from Gray Whale Cove parking lot or from Lindemar to this amazing, wonderful park. I mean, this park is incredible. I think it's one of the most beautiful roadways I've ever been on. And as I said during the campaign, I have driven to 49 of the 50 states, so I've covered a lot of roadway. It is just amazingly beautiful. And so I'm not trying to rain on that parade. I am doing this because I am fearful, as people like Len Erickson and Bill Kehoe and others have pointed out, this lack of access, this Green Valley Trail that was supposed to be part of the plan. Supervisor Horsley acknowledged last meeting that parking is known to be inadequate. I am really fearful that somebody's going to die on that stretch of road. I've only come down that stretch one time downhill, and I was fearful for my life. And so going uphill when you've got gravity pulling you down and you're going 3 miles an hour and there's cars on a narrow stretch of road, and I'm telling you the shoulder there is this wide, if at all. And it's just, it's very scary. I'm fearful that we're going to have these white crosses along the side of the road there, and I just don't understand why we don't have that Green Valley Trail. I mean, so that's why I'm riding my bike tomorrow, and I hope that I make it. And I'm not really being facetious, because anytime you ride on the road, you're taking your life in your hands, and that particular stretch of road is really scary, and this is coming from someone who rides his bike over 100 miles a week. So I hope that I see everybody there tomorrow.
Okay, I have a question. I have a couple of speaker slips here that are on density parking, road, street. These items are not on our agenda. Are you sure you're in the right meeting? This is the Mid-Coast Community Council?
Lisa, I can...
If you want to speak on an issue that's not on the agenda, then you should do it now during public comment. Okay?
We have to fill out a speaker slip for something that's on the agenda.
It just helps with the secretary with the minutes, that's all.
I didn't realize that was the policy.
Yeah, okay,
Could I have
so,
a speaker slip, please?
They're on.
All right.
sorry.
Our lights on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Nice. All right, so if you wanted to speak, Natalie and Alma, on the roads and the parking, then please now.
Hi, Natalie Moots. I have lived here since the mid-'90s and moved away for a little while, just came back a couple of years ago. And I'm retired now, so I have time to be involved in the community. And I attended a meeting last night about a development that is being planned for the corner of Coronado and Portola. And I guess the reason I'm here when I shouldn't be here to speak about these things is I got the impression from speaking to someone last night that I could do so. A concern, there are a couple of people here behind the table who attended the meeting and I think can corroborate that what seemed to be of greatest concern and interest to the community, greatest objection, had to do with the density issue of the proposed construction and the number of parking spaces allotted, which is set by code ordinance, whatever the appropriate term is. And it's clear everybody thought both the density was too great for the community and that the number of parking spaces would be inadequate. And everybody has all kinds of examples they can give for, from their real life experience living around here for why that would be the case. And I'm hoping that there is a way to affect some change so that we don't have larger and larger developments coming in, or at least something to control the parking situation in the community if we can't do anything about the size of developments coming in. And it was explained to me that this would be a good place to start to try to affect that kind of change. So, and just to further comment on that, that I'm not quite sure, I haven't been involved in this kind of community process at all, not in California ever, so don't know what the history is, but it's a very rural area, we're unincorporated. It doesn't make sense to me that we should have high-density development. Just for one thing, I mean, forget whether or not it fits into the community, but we don't have the kind of resources here. Policing, road maintenance, any kind of maintenance necessary to support the kinds of problems that would come up from large density development. There was some concern about whether there'd be Section 9 housing involved and what kinds of problems that cause. I know that's a different issue, but it seems like all of these things need to be talked about. And everybody thought that the meeting last night was the forum for such a discussion, and it seemed to me it was not. And there was a huge turnout. And it seems to me that but nobody heard what the developer and the architect were saying, when they said, we're complying with the codes. And the unsaid thing was, you need to go somewhere else if you want to try to get that changed. So I'm hoping some kind of dialogue could be started here to try to work on getting these issues changed. And really a 1.2 car per unit, or whatever those numbers are, seem awfully archaic, because you've got everybody here, if there's one person, they probably got two cars, maybe, maybe not. But if there's two people living in a place, you know they got two cars. And if you're talking about a building that's got lots of two-bedroom units, and what was it? Does anybody remember? 15 units?
15, yes.
Plus 7 or 7 plus 8.
Yeah, so basically it was enough parking spaces for every unit to have one car plus a couple spaces. And then they said, and then everybody else can park on the street. And then when somebody said, but that's not really feasible around here, they said, oh, no, we didn't say that. And anybody living here, I have neighbors with one bedroom that have 4 cars. I got a neighbor across the street with 4 bedrooms. They've got 10 cars. It looks like a parking lot around here, a used car parking lot. So I think that's important enough for the community as a whole to talk about, to try to get change, especially since we can't get much in the way of resources in this community.
All right, I have your email address, and as I said, we can't discuss anything not on the
Because it's
agenda
not on the
tonight.
agenda,
But
yeah.
I could say a couple of things. This project, a major project like this is required by the county to have a pre-application workshop. And this is before they even submit their plans. And so this is just the first step of many opportunities to publicly comment on this project that happened. Basically, your comments last night were to the applicant.
Yes, I
And,
know.
and so, the issues about the zoning, the density in that area, and the parking requirements, we can look all that up, and if I have your email, I can send that to you so that you know what's existing, what the existing zoning is, and understand that, and then you can formulate some idea of what, The other thing is that in the coastal zone, this isn't just a matter of changing zoning. We just finished a 12-year process of updating our local coastal program because our zoning here has to be approved by the Coastal Commission. So it's no small task to change that. So, but, not to say that we can't discuss this, and certainly it's going to come up around this particular project. I can see that. Okay. Alma?
Thank you.
My name is Alma Salas. I've lived here for 20 years. And in that amount of time, the street on Portola and Palma, if you're aware, water comes down that street. And what the county has decided to do, or whomever, the people that go out there and put the asphalt down, is to make it a dome so the water runs down the sides. So that takes away the street, first of all, from the cars, so you have to kind of navigate around cars. But trying to make a turn onto Palma from Portola, you're scraping your car on the bottom. Coming out, making a left turn, you're hitting your front end as well. And it's only getting deeper and deeper as the years go on. Before, it was just a little lump. Now it's pretty big, and there's about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet from the sidewalk that has been taken up with the street. So that's been taken off on both sides, narrowing that section of the road. And the water continues to run. Instead of possibly putting in drains and not just packing on the asphalt, and then when they come in and they cut it up and they patch it up, the rain comes or heavy equipment goes through, and then it's all ruined again. Alignments on my car, it's costly. And it's also unsightly to see that. I mean, you wouldn't see that in Palo Alto, you wouldn't see that in Redwood City. But we're unincorporated and we don't have those kind of sources that are going to come out here and look to see what really is the problem and try to fix it, instead of doing these makeshift, temporary, because they come out all the time.
Is this on Palma Street?
Palma and Portola.
Is it one
Right.
block of Palma or at the intersection?
The
or what?
intersection,
Palma-
about a block going up and a block going down.
Have you talked to anybody at Public Works about this problem?
We made a comment or called Horsley about it, but
When?
maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay.
But, you know, I've not
We
seen
can
anyone
ask,
come
we
out.
can ask about, so Palma and Portola, and it's a matter of the grade, the dip or the grade and just scraping your car?
Yep.
Okay.
And you could even look on the roadway where the cars have hit and just scraped into the asphalt.
All right. I'm not sure if I can read your email address here, so if you could make sure, so I can get back to you.
I wrote it on also that other sheet.
Okay. Sometimes it's hard to guess what those are. All right.
Okay,
We
and
can
also
look into
too,
that.
with the new construction, and again,
Right.
the forum yesterday was to let the contractor or architect talk about it or whatnot, and it was heavily attended, and people were really upset about it. I am too. I don't, want to see this monstrosity there. This is a really nice area to live, and it's low-key, and that's really out of place. I mean, to have that many buildings or that many residents in that building, that's ridiculous.
So did you, the people who attended that meeting, how did you find out about the meeting? Did you get a direct mailing?
No, it was, one of the neighbors had a direct mailing,
All
and
right.
he kind of spread the news.
All right, I asked because, like I say, there will be more hearings coming up on this subject. I want to make sure that you find out about them. And we will certainly notice that on the Midcoast Community Council website. That's midcoastcommunitycouncil.org, if you want to make sure. But also, if you want, make sure I have your name and email, and I can make sure you get a special heads up, when this comes up again.
Thank you.
Leonard, did you want to speak under public comment?
Yep, that's what I wrote down here then.
That's what I thought.
The crowd here last night was the second biggest crowd that's ever been in this room, the biggest one being with that Moss Beach Park incident. And I actually lost count of how many times the architect said meets code. Who cares if it meets code? The codes are always inadequate. There is no city or county in the state of California that requires sufficient parking for residential, and not usually even for business, but never for residential. And the parking requirement is just ridiculous. So I'm asking Midcoast Council to agendize a discussion of what the parking requirements in general should be. We can ignore this specific project and just talk the whole Mid-Coast, because the minimum parking that should be required for residential is 2 spaces for the first bedroom and a minimum of 1 space for each bedroom after the first. And by that standard, this project has half as many parking spaces as necessary. And another thing that I mentioned last night, the county zoning chapter, the parking chapter in the zoning ordinance code says that no project is allowed to rely on street parking. And so he backed off on that, but he's just doing a hand wave on the parking. And the bottom line is that they need to build half as many units as they're proposing. The thing is just too dense for the coast side, and especially in that particular location. So, but the important thing that I'm saying here is please put an agenda item on Midcoast Council agenda to have an overarching discussion of parking requirements. Because there's just too much reliance on street parking, and then in the apartment districts, you see it gets totally out of control. And I don't believe in allowing street parking at all, and you'll hear from me on that point, because I grew up in a city that did not allow overnight street parking, period. And I thought I had some other comments on this, but I'm not remembering what they are. One of the things you need to be aware of, I think Midcoast Council really needs to, at the appropriate time, and I don't know when exactly that'll be, Midcoast Council really needs to review this project in the way that the P&Z committee used to
We
do
haven't gotten the
things.
early referral. It's,
Right,
you know.
because they may not even have a PLN yet, I don't know.
No,
but,
right, the pre-app comes first.
Yeah. But they are proposing a roof deck, and roof decks are strictly prohibited in the LCP, and yet they're proposing it, and the planner didn't tell them go fly a kite. You know, why do the planners there not care about the LCP? They don't know and don't care. Oh, now I remember one of the other things I want to mention. Get on the Mid-Coast Council's agenda mailing list. On the printed agenda, there's instructions on the last line, and for the TV audience, go to the Mid-Coast Council website, and there's a link there somewhere that will let you subscribe to the Google group so you get the agendas emailed, and then you'll know right away when something like this is on the agenda.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I have a couple of announcements. There's Community Emergency Response Team, CERT, training, series of classes in Half Moon Bay during April, 4 consecutive Thursday evenings, plus 1 Saturday. Sign up if you're interested with Michelle Ortiz at 726-5213. There's a flyer posted on the MCC website. And also, there's a household hazardous waste drop-off event in Half Moon Bay on Saturday, April 12th. This saves you from driving to wherever it is on Tower Road if you have any hazardous waste. It's by appointment only. You call to schedule a time slot, and then you find out the exact location. The number to call is 363-4718. There's a flyer for it if you're interested. You can check before you go. Okay. Third item on our agenda, consent agenda. The minutes for March 12 were not received in time for review and are removed from the consent agenda. They'll be considered at our next meeting. That leaves only item 3B, the letter to the Harbor Commission requesting MCC representation on Harbor District Strategic Business Plan Advisory Committee. May I have a motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved unanimously. Okay, on to our regular agenda, item 4A, conversion to LED street lighting in the Mid-Coast. Desired outcome is to provide feedback on the county proposal to convert Mid-Coast streetlights to LED fixtures. I'm filling in here for Nicholas Calderon, the supervisor's aide, because he's sick, and he just sent me this presentation this afternoon, so this is new to me as it is to you, but it has some pictures.
Lisa, will this presentation be available on the MCC website?
It is on the website.
It's already there. Okay, so I just want to say a couple things first. As Nicholas told me, they want to replace the fixtures with comparable lumens or brightness. They're not talking about making it brighter or anything like that. They just want to change the fixture because the advantage of the LED is it's substantially lower energy usage. And this is about saving our planet, you know what I mean? Not only that, it's a lot cheaper. And then what appeals to me is the color spectrum of the LED lights is like moonlight instead of this distorted. Anyway, so with that, I'll jump into the slides. So, like I say, this is new to me too. So there's with the LED.
So the left is, sorry, the left is before and the right is after.
Yes.
Yeah, and keep in mind that you're dependent on the camera too, the camera being able to capture the scene, and the light source getting an extra glow because the camera doesn't have the adjustment that the human eye does, as Steve can point out.
But you just said same lumens, that's not same lumens, sorry.
These are pictures from somewhere, and I don't vouch for them on the lumens or anything else. All I'm saying is the county's plan is to not change the brightness, to put in a fixture that will be of the same brightness of the one they took out.
Now, the
Pictures
pictures
worth all
sell them.
that's what they believe.
These pictures are 1,000 lumens.
Yeah.
I think what they are trying to show, although not doing a very good job of it, is that there's a variety of different streetlights that are being replaced by LEDs.
You have to, okay, traffic lights don't count. Here's your sodium whatever, here's your little light, you see the glare, the sideways outward. Over here, you can't see the street light. You see where it's shining, but the light itself doesn't glare. You see the difference between here and here? And if you look at Pillar Point, the Air Force has recently changed the fixtures. They have a row of streetlights out there in Pillar Point you see from the distance at night. And it used to just kind of glare at you. And now the light fixtures themselves, it's much more set up in the fixture, and the color, like I say, is a more natural color. Just check it out, that's all. Did it change? Anyway, so pictures.
It just looks a lot brighter, which was alarming.
So what the county would like to do is to install a few pilot, quote-unquote, pilot lights in each community so that you can see what it would be like. And the thought was to put, then in commercial areas, you'd want something a little brighter. In the residential areas, you wouldn't want it so bright. And so these pilot lights that they could put up to start off with to let people see would be, for example, on Main Street in Montera, on Carlos Street in Moss Beach, on here in El Granada, on Alhambra or Obispo. Not the whole street, but I mean just a few, so people get a sense of it, so we know what they're talking about. So they had this whole list of benefits here. I don't know. Like I say, the one that strikes me as most important is the energy conservation, because we have to do that to save our planet, I think. And all the other thing, less attractive to nocturnal insects, I didn't realize that. They aren't as drawn to it. So the PG&E has this turnkey scope of work where they step in for municipalities and handle the whole process, recycle the old fixtures, and if they're going to do it with financing, basically it's zero interest financing, and the principal of the loan is paid back over the energy savings on the bill. So, triple bottom line, you got a 2/3 reduction in your electric bill. You get a rebate, environmental, main thing, reduced energy use, reduced carbon footprint, aligned with Night Sky Ordinance and Climate Action Plan. The county has an energy efficiency climate action plan, and the better color. And the fixtures, that lights actually last much longer, so you save on maintenance costs because you don't have to change them as often. So that's the presentation. Basically, our job here tonight is to take your input. So should we open the public comment? Is that all right?
Well, could I say one thing on that?
What?
I know that I don't know anything about these pictures either, and they do look like, the old ones don't look as bright as the new ones. However, I think an important thing about these lights is they're going to be dark sky compliant, and I'm also on the Coastline Design Review Committee, and that is a mandate for any project going forward. They must have dark sky compliant, which means the lights shine down. So if I could just theorize, because I don't know about this presentation either, where these pictures came from, I believe that part of the hope is that because they're now dark sky compliant and they're pointing down, yes, it will be brighter where the light is shining, which I think is a good thing. It's above the light fixture where the kind of the glow from those lights will not be as bright. I think that's one of the advantages. It would have been nice to hear from Nicholas, but based on what I've seen at Coastline Design Review, I think that's part of the idea here, in addition to the massive cost savings and environmental assistance there. I think that the dark sky compliant is an important part of this. So it does look brighter, but I think it will be brighter for people under the lights. Hopefully better for people with telescopes.
Sean?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm P. Sean McGraw, and I live in 900 Palma, El Granada. I moved to El Granada exactly 20 years ago this past Monday. And one of the reasons I moved here, besides, of course, the Pacific Ocean and what is now called Quarry Park, is because I could see the Milky Way at night. The Milky Way over the last 20 years has decreased in visibility due to major construction and also, I think, less concerning neighbors about light pollution. But I can still see the Milky Way. I can still see her, you know, when the night is clear and it's a moonless night. LED lights I'm very concerned about. There's been major studies done, especially in Europe and Canada, where they are concerned about the night sky. And one of the major concerns is they do add to light pollution and do remove the star count that you can see with the naked eye. In addition to that, there's a study out of Madrid, Spain, which says that the melatonin that's produced in human beings, which is you know, a natural, I'm not a scientist, disclaimer, but it's a natural hormone that actually aids sleep. It actually is reduced 500% by LEDs. So I don't buy that this stuff looks like moonlight. If anything, it looks more like a man-made flashlight in your eye. So I'm very interested in being kept in the loop, as I know other night sky viewers are, about these pilot lights that will be going in. I would like to check that out. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Champion?
Well, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Okay. Starry, starry night, right? This is actually could be the little hamlet of Montero. You know, if you come out of the tunnel and you're driving down there, this is what we like to keep, right? There's Montero Hills. You wouldn't want to look up there and see just a barrage, even if they're LED lights. I don't want to think that I'm, when I'm walking the dog at night, that I'm at the mall looking for my car in the parking lot. You know, that, we don't need that here. We really don't. So the whole scope of this, we can't forget this. I want to be able to enjoy the night. It's part of the human experience. We don't need to be under lights all the time. We need a little bit more of this. This is why we're all here. I've been here since 1973, and we all love the coast because of this. This could be Montero. You know, if he was here, you know, what would he be drawing or painting if all these lights go in? And it's just a blanket of lights. Like when you come through, you know, Montero Beach and you're looking up at Montero, what's that going to look like? Is it going to look like, you know, like a mall or a big development that doesn't look like the coast side? And I like that you've calmed me down a little bit, saying that it's going to be, you know, the night sky protected somewhat. I like the idea, but the whole scope of it, it doesn't have to, you don't have, I mean, this is not Watts. This isn't East LA. This isn't West Oakland. We want to be able to go out at night, look up at the sky, and see a few constellations, like, you know, Cassiopeia, you know, or Taurus, you know, with Aldebaran and the big red eye. You know, we want to be able to see, you know, the constellations, Scorpio, you know, hugging the eastern horizon at night. We want to see the Orion's belt. We want to be able to see all that. And, you know, we're just normal people, but we love the sky. We don't have to be scientists, but you just know when something is going to, it's like the frog in the pot. You know, if all this incremental stuff starts coming in on us, we have to fight for every bit of country, of lifestyle that we have here. Otherwise, PG&E is a big corporation, you know, they just, you know, what do they know about our area? And I know we don't have a lot of power here, but people have to think of this, you know, our starry, starry night. We do not want to lose that. But I love the idea of the light shining straight down. That is wonderful, but it's all a matter of scope. And how many lights do we need? Do we need a blanket of light up Main Street, you know, a blanket of light up 10th? Do we really need that? Can't we go into a little darkness and, ooh, you know, maybe we could carry a flashlight. Look, I brought, this is what I take when I go on a little walk, you know, one of these. You know, you got see, it's a little LED light. You know, you go like this, it's a little red, or if I'm in trouble, and I even got a whistle here. If somebody comes behind the bush, you know, I just go like this and, you know, you know, I mean, there are other ways to handle this. I just don't want to be run over, and light pollution is as it's a problem as anything else, and it doesn't get a lot of the airtime. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Leonard?
Okay, so I pulled my $1 flashlight out of my jacket pocket, and this is probably 3 times as bright as hers. This is $1. The coast side is officially semi-rural, and someday I'm going to dig up in my mess at home a memo from a San Mateo County planning director that says so. And semi-rural means we don't want this to look like San Francisco or the San Fernando Valley. There's a reason why it gets dark at night. And people who want it lit up like daytime at night need to go live somewhere else. The closest street light to my house is 3 blocks away, and that's fine with me. I don't want any street lights any closer than that to me. Now, the reason that a lot of people are riled up about this is because nearly every jurisdiction that converts to LED lights uses the power savings as an excuse to crank up the brightness to make the control freaks known as cops happy. And so you don't get the power savings that they claim because they use that to just say, well, now we can afford to have brighter lights and more of them. And as far as the lights aiming down, you know, we do have fog here, Chris, and what happens in the fog? You get this cloud of light regardless of which way the light is aimed. So
It's tough to see the stars, too.
exactly. But it's look down at the whatever it's called now, it used to be Nurseryman's Exchange, that lights up the clouds most of the year. That's an outrage that just plain shouldn't be allowed, and they should be told fix it so that you don't let light escape going up at night. But the bottom line is any change that's done here, we need ironclad assurance from the county that they're not going to put in any additional lights, that the brightness will be absolutely positively no more than the lights they're replacing for now, from now forevermore, you know, and not come back in a year and sneak it in like the county likes to do. And one of the other problems that I've seen in El Granada is there's no consistency to the fixtures that are installed. There's probably half a dozen or a dozen different types of lighting fixtures here because the county just installs whatever they picked up last week at Kmart. And they need to have a plan and stick to it, and so that there is no more, under any conditions, no more than 2 different styles of light in any town. And most cities, I talked to Dave and he's going to disagree with this, but most cities have one lighting standard. One light fixture in the city, sometimes 2 because of old and new sections, and then they have a program of replacing the old ones. But you don't have this willy-nilly thing where they just randomly install stuff like they do in El Granada. I don't know about the other coastside towns. But, you know, I'm just so totally against lighting up the coastside at night because, you know, things go round in the solar system, and the natural order of things is it's dark at night. And people that don't want to live with the natural order, move somewhere else, please.
Lisa, can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
I know it's not your presentation, I don't know if you know this. I know the county's working on a pilot plan, but did you have any information from Nicholas? Are they talking about adding additional light fixtures or just replacing the existing
They
ones?
are not going to add any new light fixtures or light poles or increase brightness. They want to keep the same brightness.
And do we have a count on what the what that brightness is right now? Do we have the baseline on that? Do we know
No.
how many lumens right now?
No, and I would guess that they're not all the same, which would line up with what Leonard was saying. And I would also guess that if they're going to do a sweeping change-out, then we would indeed have uniform fixtures. But like I said, but I'm not Nicholas, so and I'm just guessing.
I know.
So
One
we
last
have-
question you can't
oh.
answer, but, you know, there are concrete plans to go forward with this pilot program?
This is the very first step. There is nothing set in concrete.
Because I'm hoping.
They
that-
want to hear from the community what
Right.
we think about this, so that's what we're,
Two more real quick comments. Please put in a request that if there's significant community objection, that they remove or tone down the test ones that they put in, and we really only need one per community, not a few. They should put in one in El Granada, one in Moss Beach, and one in Montera, so that we can get them taken out if there's a big community uproar over it.
I think perhaps the idea might have been to put, for example, different brightnesses, so you could see how that looked and say, oh, the dimmer one's better, or I mean, the idea of this pilot thing is just to put in a few bulbs so people can see it in their community and say, well, this is good about it, and that's bad about it, and whatever, and give us more feedback. That's the idea there. Bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair, council members. I agree with everyone who went before me. I'd like to take a different tack on this, though. I have some major concerns, about why is PG&E doing this, and why would I want to trust PG&E after what happened in San Bruno? Now, I don't expect the LED lights to go blowing up and killing anybody on the street, but God knows what else they might be doing. But they're doing it because they're trying to make some kind of federal mandate that shows that they save X amount of whatever, so they get either a tax deduction or get some gimme from the government at some other stage of the game here. They're not just doing it because they're magnanimous and they love the coast side. So let's find out what's the game here. Number two, the county. It's nice that the county wants to all of a sudden do a lighting plan. Where the hell is their lighting plan right now? I know that the 30 years I've been out here, you know what the lighting plan is? The squeaky wheel gets the light. If somebody wants a light at corner X or corner Y, and they call the county and they complain enough about it, they get a light. And that's what they do. So there's no rhyme or reason or scientific placement of lights. If this was something where they're going to be put at major intersections where safety is concerned, I wouldn't have an issue with it as long as they are facing down and it's a minimal impact. But they're willy-nilly all over the place. And you come by these little pocket things like the Coastside Market or the markets on El Granada, and they'll have 4 or 5 lights, which at night are too. Actually, you had pictures of the gas station up in Moss Beach too, where they had all these lights on, and it lights up the whole street. But then when they go home at 10 o'clock, it shuts off. But they just do this stuff willy-nilly, and it's like, do we really need all that kind of light out there? A lot of us came here to begin with because they like the rural nature of the place. We like the fact that it's dark. We like the fact that we can look out at the ocean and see stars. I had to go all the way up now past Montera Beach if there's a meteor shower to even try and get a glimpse of it because of just the crap that's already in Montera. And this was even after they did away with the lights at La Castanara. Yeah, I was going to call it the Chart House again, but whatever the hell the name is this week. Anyway, so it's nice that they're going to put some in so people can see, but I don't really believe that they're going to keep the same count because I don't even think they have a count of what they got, to tell you the truth. So the questions I would like the council to ask is, where is the current plan? And please make that available on your website so we can see. 2, what are the current lumens? So we can have a metric to judge this by later, to see, do they raise it up or raise that down? I know that you can buy LEDs in all sorts of different colors and lumens, and you can buy some that will even change by a certain radio frequency, so you can have them purple one day and pink the next. It's just a matter of cost. I mean, science goes on forever with LEDs. I don't know, and I'm going to look it up, about what the first woman said about it, doing the melatonin thing. I hadn't heard that, but I'll look that up because I don't understand the connection there. But I never liked biology when I was it wasn't one of my favorite sciences. But again, I don't know why the county wants to do this now other than to save money. I applaud them for trying to save money. But without a current plan and a current state of where things are, they can just give us the bum's rush. And we won't have anything to hang our hat on later. So give me the baseline, tell me what you got, where you have it, why you have it. You know, because I don't think we need lights up into the hills of El Granada or into the hills of Montero and Moss Beach, other than it may be at one of the major streets, but every single block doesn't have to have a light on. But I'm sure there'll be people that will disagree with that, but, you know, they can move the Burlingame.
Anybody else?
Lisa, do you want me to explain the funding situation for the lights?
Pardon?
I actually understand what the funding situation is, but I'll explain it real quick. In terms of how the lighting is paid for on the coast side.
There are 3 lighting districts on the coast side, and PG&E charges a flat rate for each light. They figure out what the wattage is, and there's a flat rate. And that will be adjusted downwards when they have fixtures with lower wattage, because the LED takes much lower wattage to give the same lumens.
Right, but there's actually lighting assessment districts. It's a little tiny line on your tax bill, but it is there. And I don't know about the other 2 lighting districts, but the Granada Highway Lighting District has a fund balance of $1 million. The county is collecting many times what they spend.
They are collecting this information now. Nicholas mentioned that Pescadero, I believe, has a fund balance as well. The different lighting districts, they're not all the same that way. Princeton, west of the creek and Airport Street are not even in a lighting district. If you see any lights at all at night in Princeton, those are private. And you can't necessarily tell if you see a street light fixture on a utility pole that may be private. For example, at La Costanera, there is a utility pole north of the restaurant, fairly near the highway, with 2 fixtures on it. Those fixtures are not county. Those belong to the restaurant. They were burned out, and this is how I found all this out, because all the street lights were, half the street lights on Highway 1 in Moss Beach were burned out. This is a couple of years ago, half of them. And they were concerned because this child had been hit by a car when it was dark, and they needed a new street light. And I said, well, yeah, but you could replace the bulb. The thing is, they don't come out and check those. They depend on people calling in and saying the light's burned out, and then they come and do it. And then I was down at La Costanera, and they had those spotlights shining out on their parking lots, but they had these street lights that were burned out, and once I called and got the bulbs replaced, they didn't really need those spotlights anymore. But yeah, if you don't necessarily know when you see a light whether that's a lighting district light. It could be private, it could even be on a utility pole. And they do the billing the same way. You can have, like at Pillar Ridge, the manufactured home community, there's a light out on Airport Street that's on a utility pole, the only one there in that whole dark area for people who have to cross from the bus. But it belongs to Pillar Ridge. It's billed to Pillar Ridge, although you call PG&E to change the bulb. It's done. We're not in a lighting district.
Because the lighting district ones are done by county public works.
Yeah, but Princeton and Airport Street are not in any lighting district. We don't get lights. So it's complicated, and they're doing all this assessment. Obviously, they have to do this. We're going to go this way, but like I say, this is pretty much the first step, is to start to get community input on this. Did you wish to speak to this also?
Yeah, I have a little experience living in a low light community. It's Natalie Mills again. I said I moved away for a little while. We moved to the middle of nowhere in Arizona, and night skies, stargazing is not only something that people in the state of Arizona truly appreciate and love, but it's also a huge revenue source for the state because people travel from all over the world to gaze at the night sky. And, you know, we're kind of close to big cities and stuff, and I don't know whether we're a low light community here. I'm sorry to say I don't know that. But what I can, what I really have to say, what I really have to contribute to everybody's thinking here about that is while the community was required to be low light, in other words, all the residents had to use outdoor lighting that complied with, you know, whatever the county established. The association that owned the housing developments weren't required to comply. And they put in LED lighting to save money. And it made a tremendous difference in people's ability to see the night sky. I mean, you're talking about night skies that, unless you've been to the desert or Alaska, you've never seen before. And these lights, there weren't very many of them. You know, they had one light maybe every 75 feet just on the main drag. It really did reduce one's ability to view the stars. So just, if that's important to people, that's a thought.
Natalie, would you mind, what town in Arizona was that? Or county at least?
It was Santa Cruz County, and the town was called Tubac.
Okay, oh, did you want to speak? Did you, do I have your name?
Yes, you do. It's, I just gave you my card. It's
It's right there.
James Stafford. It's my
Right on your computer.
Oh, no, that says
next one.
Natalie.
There's one right next
Oh,
to it.
thank you.
Okay. I would also like to address the same topic that the rest of you have been addressing. I like to look at the night sky, and I have lived in a community that had the downward facing street lamps, and actually makes it worse. I mean, unless you're living a few miles away, then you get the benefit. So the people that are living way up in the hills will get the benefit because they won't have the glow. But the people that are living close by those downward facing street lamps, it's much worse because you can't see diddly when you look up at the sky. So, you know, I'm not like a professional stargazer, but I love just being able to look up at the sky, especially, you know, if I'm like walking down the beach or something at night. It's fabulous. So I think to really enjoy the benefit of those downward facing street lamps, you have to live several miles away to really get the benefit. Because then you're not getting the glow. But anyone that's close by, they're not getting the benefit of that downward facing. It's benefiting the other folks. So I think we should really think twice about it. That's all.
What if they were 12 feet off the ground instead of 30?
Well, obviously that makes a difference. You know, the closer they are, the brighter it is for those people down there. But you know, you don't have to be as far away to get the benefit, of course.
You need a map. It's sparse too, and in between them you can see it. But if they have it 5 on the block, you've lost it. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So sparse would be easy.
So that's
the
all.
plan would really be nice to see what the intention is, how many little landfills.
Exact.
And what alternatives are there?
Sure.
Lisa, can I ask a question of the audience?
Sure.
So, I want to ask a question of the audience. So the LED, we definitely get the feeling that the community is not happy about the LED. Everybody's spoken so far as opposed it. Okay, duly noted. If we're given a choice between what we have now and LED, are you telling us that you'd rather stay with what we have now?
I would say
No.
yes, but I actually complained about 6 years ago, it was July 2007, I called San Mateo County, got the public works person in charge, and I said, you just put this bubble gum looking fixture in front of my house, because I live in front of the street lamp. And they said, okay, well, we'll do something to make it dimmer. And they did. But then, and I said, do I have your word that you will never put any of these others? And they did. They started expanding the program. So I would be for somebody turning back the clock to 2007.
Okay.
I'm not even happy with status quo, but
Okay,
not a
so
little busy.
I don't,
Right.
I hear also that people aren't really thrilled with the status quo either. So no, not happy with status quo, not wanting to go LED. What other choices are there? Or what other thoughts are there?
Just, I am not totally
Okay,
against LED. It'd be interesting to see what the other choices are. So, like I said, I'll definitely follow up on what the first woman talked about. But I'm not against new advances in technology as much as I am against too much of it, the density of it, and the pollution that comes out of it. So, you know, an LED light, definitely no compact fluorescent because of the mercury. The sodium lights, which are the pictures on the left, put that yellow haze, makes everything kind of orange. They have the problem as well. I think most people are saying it wasn't so much the type of light as how much of it and the residual reflection that you get from it.
It kind of sounds like, this is the first meeting I've attended, so maybe I don't understand what's gone on past, but it sounds like.
Excuse me, we can hear you, but the TV camera can't pick you up if you're over there.
It sounds to me as though somebody within our community, nobody within our community is looking into this. Maybe it's just being dictated to us. We just have what we have, status quo, and
What do you mean looking into it? I mean, this is the first time it's been brought to us, so we're
okay, well, I don't know,
This is the initiation of the
because
discussion.
you asked about
I would like to make
alternatives.
one other comment that's actually relevant to that. The lighting districts that Lisa talked about, the Board of Supervisors sits as the Board of Directors of those lighting districts. We're an advisory body to the Board of Supervisors. So the right channel is for us to go to the board. Nicholas is an aide to one of the supervisors. And so that's why we're seeing this presentation, so we get a chance to comment on it, provide that feedback. And we can ask these kinds of questions as part of that feedback.
Okay. Well, I don't know where I would get information about possible alternatives. Maybe stargazers know about possible alternatives, but I guess that would require some research.
Well, I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Could I have a chance to speak?
Sure.
Okay. So, I want to say that I'm not opposed to the energy savings and the green aspect of LED lights. But I do want to say I moved here 25 years ago for the rural aspect of this community. I was very fortunate in my years growing up that I spent a lot of time in rural Oregon and rural Midwest, and over the years spent time in Yosemite and a lot of camping out. That experience for me has grown an enormous appreciation for the ability to see the night sky. And when I moved here, I had an ocean view. I don't have an ocean view anymore. I appreciate the night sky, and I don't want that taken away from me. I have a street light down the street. My block is quite dark. Over the years, you know, people that have a concern with it, they have their night light on. There's lights out in the landscaping, whatever, to make each home more comfortable. And I understand that there's probably quite a few newcomers in the area that, they moved here for a reason, most likely because it's beautiful. There's a lot of, benefits to living in this area. And, you know, they may have been used to brighter lights, and yes, for some new people, they may want brighter lights. I don't. I don't want brighter lights. I would like to see it stay the same, relative. And Lisa, you said in your or Nicholas's presentation, that we will get the same lumens, yet the pictures show like prison spotlights on the intersections, as opposed to the soft yellow light that we have and we're accustomed to and that we all love. Most of us love. The dark sky compliant, I'm sorry, respectfully, it doesn't mean a lot to me. I can understand if there's a house with a bedroom window up here and there's a light here, yes, they would want the light going straight down. But I do understand that if it's focused, it's going to be brighter in that one area, and cumulatively, it's going to take away that picture that we saw earlier, the night sky. I have understanding that the technology of LED lighting is changing rapidly. So I do have one question, you know, is now the time to jump in when technology may be better in 2-3 years? I have to say I disagree with Leonard about the uniformity of the lights. You know, this is a rural, you know, I'm okay. I don't really look at the light. I don't stand and look at it. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't need to be. I'm very afraid of everything getting washed over and everything uniform and being curb and gutters, and just we totally lost this rural feeling that we have for our area, which apparently is bringing a lot of, you know, bringing a lot of visitors here right now. There's a reason why this place, everybody wants to come here and be here. There's a reason. Let's not kill that reason. So I'm sure there's some calculations in the cost and the energy savings along the way. You know, I would like to be able to see the calculations and the figures that they're using. Again, I'm going to say I'm not opposed to the energy savings and green aspects, LEDs in general. I would highly recommend that if there ever was these pilot lights, let's have them, I know you can get lights in different colors, let's have them duplicate exactly what we have. Let's have LED lights give the yellow light the same that we have here, and the soft yellow light that will minimally take away from our rural feeling and the ability to enjoy the night sky.
Leonard, did you have something else?
Well, in response to Chris's survey question, once I carpooled with someone down to a Coastal Commission meeting in, I forget where, Monterey or something like that. He took me down to Moss Landing and showed me some parking lot lights at a place that a friend of his worked. And the parking lot lights were this high. Well, no, they were this high, okay? Because I couldn't quite reach them. And so I don't think that vandalism on the coast side is a particular issue. I would like to see the lights lowered to basically just above a tall person's ability to jump and touch it, which is probably about 10 or 12 feet. We don't need lights that are 30 feet in the air, or if you look at the Harbor District Lot C, they're on 50 or 60 foot standards, which is totally ridiculous. They stick out above the highway for a parking lot that's 30 feet below the highway. So, you know, let's lower how high off the ground the lights are and tone them down. As much night lighting as is necessary, and I said this to Dave, we had a long discussion last night, and we were not particularly in agreement on most of the stuff. But I firmly think, and I've thought this way for a very long time, that the only night lighting that you need, especially in a place like this, is just barely enough to keep from tripping over a crack in the sidewalk. And any more light than that is unnecessary and justifiable and undesired by most people. So, you know, let's use this as an opportunity to tone down the intensity of the lighting. And, yeah, we need to fiddle with the color spectrum too and make sure that it's the right color spectrum. Dave says that the white lights are cheapest, and, you know, maybe cheapest isn't always the best thing to do.
Dave?
So I wanted to make a couple of comments. One is actually basically what Leonard was just saying. There have been quite a few advances in LED lighting over the last few years. There's now a much wider selection of spectrums, both the perceived color and, you know, how uniform that color space is spread. So I do think that we need to ask, if they're going to do a pilot program, that they consider several of the choices as far as spectrum goes. I do think that the directing of the light downward does make a substantial difference. I've seen the effects myself, even within a neighborhood, and it is actually substantial. You have only to look at a globe-style light, as we saw in some of those pictures, versus the ones that are directed down. And while they do not get rid of the night sky pollution, they do reduce it even if you're near it. I've seen that at the house in Montero. So there are different styles of fixtures. Generally, in a program like this, PG&E is paying for the whole thing. They're giving rebates. PG&E is going to select the ones that are cheapest and easiest to maintain. Those are not necessarily the ones we want.
I think I need to clarify that. That's not the impression I got at all. The county's paying for the fixtures. PG&E acts as a
Yes, but-
contractor in this
But
sense.
they have a selection that they recommend. So maybe that one's not correct. But nonetheless, there is a wide variety available. The other thing to remember is incandescent lights, for better or worse, are going away. All of these incandescent street lights you have, they're gonna be replaced. You're gonna either get fluorescent, mercury, sodium, or LED. They are all going to be replaced as they burn out and as the supplies of spare bulbs disappear. So keep that in mind. So I think it's appropriate to ask for, you know, what are the plans, what are the policies for the street lighting district? And I believe the answer, as has been suggested, is there isn't any, in which case we should ask for one, and we don't want the one in the rural area to be the same as it is for a suburban area. So I think it's appropriate for us to provide that feedback.
Just for the record, I believe these in our community are the high-pressure sodium light fixtures, which are pretty energy efficient, as, you know, as I think they are the most energy efficient next to the LEDs.
Yeah, the price comparison in there is saying a 2/3 reduction. That's over the high-pressure sodium.
Okay.
I thought the sodium vapor lights are that hideous alien invasion yellow.
Yeah.
But that's not.
We call it hideous. We call it hideous.
All right, my turn. I just wanted to, there were some comments, I had posted this on CoSider and Nextdoor, and the comments there were in line with what we've heard tonight. Basically, don't want it too bright, concerned about light pollution and excess glare. So that seems to be the general theme. And I actually was delighted to hear this because Pillar Ridge, where I live, it's under, mobile home parks are under state law as far as street lighting. You have to provide X amount of brightness on your streets, of state law. Imagine it. And so we have these obnoxious street lights in our community. And with the yellow light and the globes going down, and they shine out and shine in your window, it just drives me nuts. And I just always thought the downward directed would just shine on the street, not in my house, would be great. But that's my opinion. And also, I think that the different color spectrum, I mean, it's, I don't think we got a real picture of it from the slideshow. if you look out on a full moon night, the color of the light on the land is what we're going for. I think that in our rural area, that's what we should strive for, is to try to get as close to moonlight as we can. And, you know, you might have some,
And still be able to see the moon.
well, it's a trade-off, and you're going to have this, you're going to have these two directions pulling always. There will be people who want more security lighting or more safety lighting, and there will be others who could care less and just want to see the night sky. Somehow, you have to have some places that you're going to have to settle on something. And fortunately, we don't have to decide that here tonight. But I think we've gathered the sense of what people wanted to say, and we could pass this on, and there'll be more discussions on this. Yes?
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Well, I just wanted to say I'm leaving and I'm walking home without a flashlight.
Thank you.
I trust El Granado already.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you for coming, Sean.
I don't know.
The only thing I'd like to say.
Do we have your name?
Jim Ball, I'm on your list there.
Oh, thank you.
I just want to say we have some great ideas. I learned a lot about lights tonight. Keep in mind, one thing lights do, they deter crime. And as long as we keep the criminal element out of our town, which we have, we don't need to, we can enjoy these privileges. But once we let that criminal element in, we're going to lose these things, because we have to protect our children. So some great ideas, but if we let the high density and some of this other, we're going to lose these privileges. Lights do deter crime, so we don't need them yet, but we may have to sacrifice some things if we don't keep the criminal element out of here. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, so I think we finished that item. We go on to 4B, letter of support for county application for active transportation program grant funding for the Highway 1 parallel trail in Moss Beach and Montera. This is the northern segment of this long-awaited trail. And you've seen the draft letter. Does anybody have any questions? Council? We're all good? Anybody want to speak on this? Bill?
I was so engrossed with the lighting, I forgot I wanted to talk about this one. So yes, I fully support that you guys, that the council, sorry, not you guys, actively push the county into getting funding for the Montera and Moss Beach segment. But I also want to put in a big warning, because I'm really afraid the county has previously looked at taking the parallel trail that goes on the east side of Highway 1, and up when they get up to the farm across from the airport, they want to cross over to the airport side, have the trail go by the airport and bypass the field, and then cross back over when they get closer to Moss Beach. And I think that defeats the whole purpose of a trail that's safe for kids to connect the communities, especially when that farm field is plowing 15, 20, 25 feet outside of his own boundaries, and you can tell that by where the light poles are. Now, I'm sorry if he can't make a go of his business farming on his own land, but, you know, those are the restrictions. And I know he's done a lot to prevent. When I first moved out here, I used to see horses coming off of Sunshine Valley Road, going all along that stretch, and then crossing over to the beach down where the light was, because it was too dangerous trying to get a horse across Highway 1 with the speeds there that are 50 and 55 from Moss Beach. So yes, for the parallel trail, the multimodal trail, as it was originally defined by the community, running on the east side of Highway 1. That's really important.
To reassure you, this is not for that section of trail.
Oh, I totally missed it.
This is for Carlos Street,
Oh,
and get
okay.
across the ravine somehow to Montera, and then on
Oh,
up.
so we're going to have a
We're still
trail
going to have
down
a
here, a
gap.
trail ahead,
We're
and
still,
then the
yeah,
missing link.
we're doing it in
Okay.
segments. This is
Everything I just said, save for the missing link.
Okay,
When
okay.
we finally get to that. And then, and we've talked about that. The issue is, what do you do? There is, let me just tell you. So one of the things that you should be aware of is there's a pipe, I don't know if it's a water main or a sewer main, that's owned by or controlled by Montero Water and Sanitary District that runs along the east side of Highway 1, where the ravine is between Montero and Moss Beach over the creek there. I did talk to Clemens about it one time, but when it came time for that to be fixed, repaired, replaced, or whatever, that he get with the county and have them look at how that repair job could also be reinforced enough to put a trail over it or under it and maybe split the cost or whatever to do it. And sort of get, a bigger bang for the buck kind of thing. Because they will have to replace it if not in the next 4 or 5 years, definitely within a decade. And the way funding goes out here, it might coincide. I don't know. Thank you.
I didn't know speakers of comment.
You may speak.
Let me make one quick comment. Bill, you made me think you were talking about the horses. It was not at all uncommon when I first moved here. The horses would be walking up and down the street, my street, getting from the ranches to the beach.
That was me.
That was you?
There is an issue.
You owe me money for a shovel.
No, that wasn't me. That
You should
wasn't
pay
me.
her for that fertilizer because it's really good. I used to actually collect that from the girl behind me who used to own a horse. But, I mean, the farmer has new, no offense to him, there are new state regulations about any kind of food product from the minute it goes in the ground till it's on the grocery shelf. And especially as to what happened in Salinas and all the spinach getting contaminated. So there is a legitimate fear there, and they can't go on that property. But like I said, if he's extended way outside of his property, that needs to be addressed. And so, that's the issue there. So we can talk about it all the time.
Leonard.
The only comment I have is, can you ask the county to, under no conditions ever in the future, name it after a person, especially a politician?
Good idea.
I had my heart set on it, Leonard.
Lisa, do you mind for the people viewing on the camera, could you just give a basic, you mentioned briefly, but can you give a little bit more information as to the extent of the trail?
This is for the segment of the trail from, I'm guessing roughly Marine or Cypress in Moss Beach up to Montero State Beach at the restaurant.
I think actually Ethel, because that's where the plan.
Well, I don't know. We'll know better when he's written the grant application. We're getting in early on this. The period just opened for the proposals, and they have until May to get their application in, and we'll get a copy of it when he does that. Okay,
As far as any designs, it's just back to the old, the traffic study that was out, was it a couple of years ago now, that they had some diagrams, some illustrations as to what.
We're nowhere near designs or anything. Yes, they're gonna work with the Highway 1 Safety and Mobility Study. That's our
Right.
concept plans.
Right.
And one thing to note, that this grant application is different from the one for the Measure A application for the southern segment, which was only for planning and permitting. This one is for everything through construction. It's a different program, and that's what they require. So it'll be interesting to see the actual application when he finishes it and what they're going to ask for and the whole process. And hopefully they'll get the money. So do I have a motion to approve this letter?
I so move. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved unanimously. So next on our agenda is this Midcoast Public Services Guide, and this is an old pamphlet that was done in 1999 that I wanted to make sure it was updated, and Nicholas offered to help with that, but he's not here, and we really don't have anything to talk about yet. Basically, all I can say is there's a link to this online. If you have any thoughts, any feedback, council members, on how this could be improved.
My first thought as I looked at this, and I just did some checking, is, this is from 1999. My first thought is that all of the departments or units mentioned here, whatever their name or official formal name is today. That's what should be on this document. I highlighted some things where, you know, they don't have the right names. I mean, I know this is parsing, but they have Montera Sanitary District. Well, that's not the name of it. They have El Granada Sanitary District.
Could I ask you, make a request? If you want to go over and make all your notes, send them along. Thank you. I'll put all that together and tell Nicholas.
Okay.
So we'll just table that item for now? All right. Agenda item 5, council activity.
Well, before we table it, so do we think it's worth the effort to get it updated?
Basically, this is going to be, it's not going to be a printed pamphlet.
No,
It's
it's
going to
just gonna
be
go on the
something
website.
online. You can
Yeah.
print it if you want. You can look it up. It's on our website now. I just want to make sure it was up to date. And he's willing to do it, so.
So Nicholas is willing to do the work. Oh, great. I missed that
Him
somehow
or
in your
somebody in
statement.
planning, yeah, he's already started on it,
Oh,
but
excellent.
anyway, so, but like I say, he was sick. Okay, so council activity, does anyone have, Chris?
Yes, okay, so, March 13th, I attended a Cosign Design Review Committee meeting. We had 3 projects, 2 of them were in El Granada, 1 in Moss Beach. We recommended for approval a project in in El Granada that features one of the original houses in El Granada. So it's actually their barn that they need to basically raise the barn. It's falling apart, and they provided plans for the new one. But it was, you know, interesting to hear the story of the barn and see. They brought pictures of, you know, El Granada is laid out by Burnham, and there's 4 houses there. There's the house and there's the barn. So that was an interesting item. The other 2 items were carried over for the next week. But the important point of that is both committees, the El Granada Committee and the Moss Beach Committee, were fully staffed. And even though we had projects for both El Granada and Moss Beach carried over to the next month, the general tone was very agreeable. People were working together, and I felt that it was the way it's supposed to work in terms of people listening, understanding, trying to get to the right place, and moving the ball forward. So I felt that was a good meeting. Let's see. As previously mentioned, I was on the Surfers Beach conference call, Surfers Beach Highway 1 conference call on March 20th. I also felt that the spirit of cooperation was present at that meeting, which I have to admit, I went in, you know, wondering how it would go. Pleasantly surprised. I also attended on March 20th the Granada Sanitary District meeting. I have some notes from that, which I'm sure that Leonard can help me out with if I stumble here on that. And a couple of interesting things are Rick Lohman is now an alternate on the LAFCO board. So Rick Lohman is a board member for GSD. He's now an alternate on the LAFCO board. So we've got some representation there. Previously, I believe that Alan Alfano was the closest the Mid-Coast got to representation on that board. So that, I think that's nice for the Mid-Coast. They mentioned that GSD is talking to Marlene Finley, who's the County Parks Director, about a letter of understanding to have county parks handle the parks and recreation aspect of the Community Services District, at least initially, if that is passed in June. The redesigned Granada Sanitary District website is now live. It looks very nice. Excellent work on that. Leonard reported, in the spirit of properly functioning government bodies, that the new SAM board is, what is that, Sewer Authority Midcoast? Yeah. Is working very well together, and they are not experiencing some of the personality conflicts that troubled them in previous years. So again, I'm pleased to hear that. And this, Leonard, if my notes are a little sketchy here, it was presented that over the last 20 years, the Granada Sanitary District rate average rate has only increased 1.8%. So that's pretty nice. Sam has formed a recycled water committee, which I think is important to everybody on the Mid-Coast, and Rick Lohman is on that committee, as well as Alan Alfano. And last, LAFCO approved without debate an impartial statement by Martha Poyatos, who is the executive officer for LAFCO, regarding the GSD application. And that is complete, and I believe will be in the
It's
ballot.
regarding Measure G.
Yes.
It's an impartial analysis
Yes.
of Measure G.
Yes, that's right. So that's my reporting from that.
You want me to clarify a little bit the rate situation?
Briefly.
In 1999, we cut the rates by 25%, and then it was level for 10 years. And then I think, I'm unclear on the percentages right now, but I think we had 4 years in a row of like 5% a year increases, and no increase this year, and I don't think there was an increase last year. So when you average out over 20 years, you know, starting with that 25% cut, yeah, then you end up with 1.8%.
Which, I mean, I think that's an important figure to note. I mean, over 20 years, 1.8% average rate increase. That's what, half of the cost of living or the rate of inflation. So it's an important number that I'm glad that was presented at that meeting. Then last night, I, along with Dave and Leonard and Dan, attended the Mavericks Apartments pre-application workshops hosted by the County Planning Division. And I think we've already heard, but the overwhelming consensus of the community, the statement of the community is no, because the density is totally wrong. It's too dense. The parking situation is unacceptable as presented. And I think in general, the form of the structure, the size of the structure and the place that it's going to be, the community felt does not feel like El Granada. So that, if I could summarize, and thank you for the time on it.
Oh.
I could go on. I've got some.
No, I was writing it down.
I felt like maybe that was.
I got a couple things. So I had let you know that the Half Moon Bay Library sent an invitation for us to send somebody to a stakeholder meeting. Do any of you guys use the library? Nobody offered to be that designee. Does somebody want to offer that tonight?
I am planning to attend the one that's on the 9th of April.
Will you be the MCC designate for that?
I will be happy to be the MCC designate.
What's the date?
The 9th of April. There's one other one, I can't remember the other date.
So I will, do you want me to, will you contact them or should I and say you're the one?
I will be happy to contact them.
Okay. I forwarded you the email with the contact information. Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. And the other thing I have is the Harbor Commission, April 2nd agenda, number 21, is to approve a purchase agreement for 504 Avenue Alhambra, where we are tonight. So that's very interesting news. It looks like they're actually going to do it. This is good, as far, in my opinion. I think this is a good thing that the Harbor District has decided to buy this building instead of building something at the harbor. We don't know what this is going to mean for Granada Sanitary District when their lease is up at the end of the year. At the March 19th Harbor District meeting, they resolved to resume videotaping at their meetings by Pacific Coast TV, so that's also good news. Right, so that's all I have, so we're on to future agendas. On April 9th, we've got the removal of 7th Street fence with a bunch of county people coming out. We have Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District presentation on their vision plan and their ballot measure. And Chris wanted to have an informational meeting on Granada Sanitary District. since we discussed this at our last meeting, we found out that Granada Sanitary District is having their own informational meeting the following week at the school. So I just wanted to touch base with people to see if you think it's the best use of our time to, or how we could best, pardon? Well, you had mentioned that if they don't get to school, it could be the following week. Have they decided which date it's going to be?
No, I haven't heard anything yet. I just wanted to make sure that it's really clear to everyone that it'll either be on our regular meeting date, the third Thursday, or if the logistics don't work out, then the public Q&A town hall type thing will be on the following Thursday, the fourth Thursday.
Thank you. All right, basically, when I try to get the word out on meetings, I mean, it's an effort. You get it on CoSite, you put it on Nextdoor, you send out your agenda, you do all this, and to be doing a media push like that for 2 separate meetings on the same topic so close together, it seems to me like a great duplication of effort and may cause confusion. And my feeling is that it would be best to focus our attention on getting the public to go to Granada's meeting, to get everybody in the same room, to go there and speak in support of it there. I would like to know your thoughts on that.
I can see some value of having, one bigger meeting as opposed to, have it fractionalized. So would so GSD at the meeting, I guess it would make provisions for the MCC to make.
We would go,
comments,
if
go as
MCC
individuals,
members
go
would
as
speak as individuals,
yeah.
yes.
So you get the same, well,
If we have an informational meeting here, we would just be speaking as individuals then as well. There was no proposed action to take as a council.
I think it should sponsor a debate on the measure.
Who's going to debate? You don't have any opposition.
Is that all, Dan?
yeah, no, I just think that there could be some merit to the possibility of somebody coming in and having a short discussion and incomplete, and then thinking that, hey, they heard it all, walking away, I think, oh, I know, my mind's made up, and walking away without really being part of the full conversation. So I would, if there was a choice to me, I think it would be better to have one larger, more complete discussion as opposed to.
Dave?
I don't personally think we need an informational meeting at the MCC meeting. I think there's going to be adequate information out there between the various meetings, et cetera. But, if people feel strongly, I'm happy to support it. I'm a personal supporter of the measure. So.
I'm sorry. Add one thing. I haven't said what I just said. I don't know that it would be a terrible idea to be able to just make comments, the members.
At the MCC as well, you mean?
Yeah.
You would want to say the same thing?
Well,
I just think, there's.
Basically, so that
Okay.
there's a record that it was discussed here, but.
Well, we did discuss this last August, and we had Chuck out here to make an informational presentation in August, and we approved a letter in support of this issue. That's all detailed in the minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked to some people out in the public and community, they seem to be misinformed, so I don't know, I don't know if I'm gonna have to abstain at this. I'm kind of mixed. I think it's definitely more valuable to have a big meeting, a full, complete meeting. At the same time, I think that there should be some kind of you know, on the record on the MCC meeting. I don't know how we can.
Well, if you want to sponsor it, I'm happy to vote yes on.
Chris
add that to the
Chris
agenda.
clearly wants to sponsor this, and I had misgivings. Chair is supposed to set the agenda, but I'm not going to say, no, you can't do this. I think the majority should rule. So what say you?
Well,
Well, it sounds
What do
like
you
we have
propose?
2 people of our 4 who would like to have it on the agenda, and I'm okay with it. I just don't think it's necessary, so.
Do you think it's worth having Chuck come all the way up from Southern California to make his presentation here again?
I
Or
don't think
do
it's
we know
necessary to have
enough?
Chuck. I think we could have somebody else make the presentation. I know it can't be somebody on the board. I think there's some prohibition of that.
Well, we have the.
Prohibition is strictly against spending public money on it, that doesn't.
Oh, okay. So do you think somebody on the board would be willing to make the presentation?
I would assume so.
We have the handout that Chuck brought last time.
Yeah, well, I think there's a little more data than now that it's gone before LAFCO, so it might be a different, if it's not a different presentation, I don't think we should do it, let's put it that way.
You know,
What, say again?
If the presentation is the same as last time, then I'd see no point doing it.
And to appease the thoughts that I just brought up a moment ago, you know, just making a statement in public comment would probably suffice about pretty much encouraging the people to attend this meeting, which is not scheduled yet, but we're shooting for 2 dates, right?
Yeah, I did put this on the homepage under focus topics, and as soon as the date's firmed up for your meeting, that will be there as well. And there's links to the information page, and, you know, my focus being the website person and all that is to just make sure that in every avenue I can, that people are aware of the GSD community meeting. So,
the reason that I wanted to sponsor this agenda item is because I'm trying to raise public awareness that this is even an issue on the ballot. If we look at the election in November, voter turnout was weak. Elections were decided by a handful of votes. And in my discussion with people around El Granada, I would say, I don't have the exact numbers, but I would say my feeling is the majority of people I talk to, so 51%, let's say, you know, what the majority, didn't even know about this issue. And so my feeling is, yes, I understand the duplication of effort seems, you know, redundant, and there is a possibility of, you know, increased confusion if one person says one thing and one person says another. But my feeling in trying to raise awareness of this issue to just get people to vote on it, and it's very important that at this agenda item it is an information only. That's why I asked Chuck Duffy if he would be willing to do it, and he said he would, is because I just want people to be aware of the issue and what happens if you vote, that it's on the ballot, what it says, and what happens if you vote yes and what happens if you vote no. I would prefer Chuck as opposed to a board member or anybody else, because I feel that, you know, the history of this particular issue and also other politics on the coast side, it's very important that people see that we're just trying to get information out to people that is impartial, so that people can then are aware and they can schedule their lives so they can go and vote on this issue whichever way they decide to vote, and increase the turnout on this so that whatever result we get, we can feel like this is the community saying we want it or we don't. If 300 people come out and vote for this, you know, is that a mandate? I mean, 300 people, if 400 people come out and vote against it, is that a mandate? You know, I just would like to see more voter turnout. I'd like to see more people ask for information about this, want to come to these meetings. And so that's why personally I feel that pretty much you couldn't have enough of these meetings, is the opposite of how you feel. You couldn't have enough of these meetings, in my opinion, too, because if 1 or 2 more people hear about it and know that this is on the ballot and inform themselves, then the purpose has been served.
It's the notification of the meeting and who you're reaching that's my concern, and that, just to have it on the agenda doesn't mean anybody can know about it.
Understood.
So what did I get? Dan and Dave, you want to have this on the agenda?
If Chris has already contacted Chuck, and Chuck is willing to come up and is going to present something different than he presented last time, then yes, I think it is worthwhile if we can get the word out and actually get people here or watching the video, yes.
I can't make any assurances on Chuck hasn't sent me his presentation yet. I asked him to send it to me ahead of time so we can.
Just let him know we'd like to see something that's at least a little bit different than last time.
I did ask him if, in this information-only presentation, to make it different from possibly the LAFCO the presentation made to LAFCO, is what is actually on the ballot, and what happens if you vote yes, and what happens if you vote a clarifying information only about what is now at hand, not necessarily what has come before, but what is now at hand, what is on the ballot, what people will see when they get their mail-in ballots or they go to the voting booth. And I'm hoping that that would be a little bit different than the LAFCO presentation, which was aiming for a different goal.
Leonard?
One of the reasons I suggested a debate is that, especially if it's Chuck, if the district is paying for Chuck to come up here, then his presentation has to be absolutely neutral. You can't advocate the position in any way. Whereas, if you have a debate, with a proponent, probably one of the directors, but who knows, and somebody else, assuming that anybody's willing to even put their name on being opposed to parks, I think you'll get a totally different approach to presenting it to the community why they should vote yes or no.
But exactly, that's exactly why I'm advocating an information only, and really trying to strictly hold to that, and really feel that a debate would be counterproductive, because I was at that town hall in October, and that's not a productive situation. I mean, we know that there are people that are vehemently feel one way or the other about the issue or about the people involved or whatever, and that's not what I want, that's not what I think is beneficial to the community right now. People need to know that it is on the ballot, and that they can go to wherever it is they want to go to research this issue further and make up their own mind. I don't really feel that the MCC or anybody needs to forcibly convince anybody, debate it out. I don't see a debate. I see it immediately devolving into people yelling at each other, people from the audience yelling, and we're back to, chasing our tails again. This is an opportunity to let the voters decide for themselves without the figures on their shoulders telling them one way or the other. I just want people to know that this is an issue.
Okay, I've made a decision. We're going to have your agenda item on at April 9th as you presented it. So do I have a motion for adjournment?
I did want to suggest one other thing for a future agenda. We don't need to pick the date right now. And that is the issue that came up in the responses about the apartment, to see if we can get the county to change the number of required parking spaces on multi-unit developments. I don't believe that's an item specifically called out in the LCP, so I don't think it requires the amendment of the LCP.
Will you do the research on the parking zoning requirements?
I would be happy to do that, and if you could just put it perhaps on the list of future topics, or potential future topics.
Yeah, I'm guessing that it won't be until May, because on April 23rd, we have the Rats Lady and Big Wave.
The
Raptors are the solution. The acronym is RATS.
Yeah. Yes, I will be happy to research that and provide a more detailed suggestion for the agenda.
Yeah, there's a section in the zoning ordinance called parking, whatever. Yeah, okay. So are we adjourned?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.
Bill, look up LED street lighting on